Okay, so today I thought I would write a program in ARM assembly, and the program I want to write is going to be a simple number guessing game. So I've kind of outlined the steps that we need to do for a game like that. When writing the code, we won't necessarily write the steps in the order in which the game will eventually process them. We'll probably jump around a little bit. But this is a very easy game. In a higher level language, it only requires like a dozen lines of code or something. But if you're not familiar with it, the idea is that you present the user with a prompt. The prompt would say something like type a number between 1 and 100 or 1 and 1,000 or whatever range you want to pick. If you really wanted to, you could pick negative 100 to 0, but we'll probably stick with like 1 to 100. So then the user types in a guess, like 50, because that's halfway in between. And then your program would compare their guess to the actual number that was generated and just give them a hint and say your guess was too low, your guess was too high, something like that. And then it'll go through that loop until eventually they will have narrowed it down and they will guess correctly. So let's say the number is 26. And after going, high, low, they eventually get 26, at which point we exit out of the loop and then the game's over. So it's very simple. And like I said, in a higher level language, it only takes a few lines of code, but in assembly, we'll have to do quite a bit more because nothing is given to you in assembly. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the editor and start taking a look at this. Let me move this over here like that. And let me just resize this window. Something like that. All right, so for starters, we have an empty directory other than the makefile. I can't ever remember the syntax of the makefile, so I always start with like some kind of default makefile. So let's go ahead and look at our makefile just so we know what we're dealing with. So the first thing we need to do is assemble our code. And I'm going to, for quite a while, be using this -g argument. And the -g argument for the assembler just tells it to include information that's necessary in order for the debugger to be able to allow us to step through the code. If we don't include that -g argument, when we bring the program up in the debugger, it won't work. We won't be able to see anything. So for a while, at least until the program's done, we'll keep that -g in there. And then -o is just the output. So we're taking the main.s file. That's the primary file that I'll be working with. We'll take that code in, and then we'll output that to main.o. Eventually, we'll have more files, probably not too many, but at least one or two more. So we'll have to come in here and we'll add in more lines to this section. Once the object file is created, the linker needs to run, and the linker will similarly, it'll output a file of our choosing, and I'm just going to call it main. And then as an argument, it needs to take in the object file that was created by the assembler. So that's what this -o is. And again, when we're done, or as we move along, we're going to be adding in more object files, more assembler files. And this is a bit odd here at the end, but once the linker is done, I like to immediately remove all the object files. That way, every time I type make, it's guaranteed to remake everything. And since the program that we're working with is so small, remaking it every time is no big deal. Okay, so let's quit out of our makefile and let's start editing our main.s. Okay, so the first thing that we need is the .global directive, and we need to tell .global what the entry point into our program is going to be. And by default, it has to be _start. You can change that if you want to, and maybe we'll look at that. But I usually don't bother. But if you really want to change it to something else, you can change it. You just have to pass the -e argument into the linker and then tell the linker what you change it to. So like if we wanted to call it main, or if we wanted to call it game or whatever, we can do that. But by default, it's going to look for this label that's specifically called _start. So we'll stick with that. So so now this is the actual start label. So like up at the top, global start, and then this is the actual start label. So the first thing I'm going to do is I just want to make sure that the assembler, the linker, I just want to make sure that process is working correctly. So before I do very much at all, I just want to make sure the program itself can exit, because it's not a given that it will exit. You can write a C program that just has a main function that's empty, and it'll compile, run, and it'll just do nothing and close out. But that's not the case in assembly. So the first thing we need to do is actually tell the program how to exit. And since I can't always remember these exit codes, I have copy pasted this reference into this document here. Let me see if I can scroll that over a little bit. And then because that's quite small, I've also taken like the pertinent information from the exit and I've put it here on this line. And then I've done the same thing for like read and write. So what we have to do is we have to move into register 0 an exit code. And for any normal situation, our program would just exit with an exit code of 0, similar to like in C, you return 0 when the main function's done if everything is okay, and normally it will be. And then in order to exit, we have to have, according to the system call reference, we have to move into register 7 the immediate value 1. Why register 7 and why 1? I mean, that's just the way the architecture is. That's the way the protocol has been defined or whatever. And then we need to do a supervisor call of 0. And that should be all we need for just to make sure that our program will assemble and link. So let's go ahead and save that and then quit and just run our makefile. And if everything went well, we should see 0 when we look at the exit code after running the main command. And we do. All right, so that gets that part started. Now, I don't want to have like magic numbers basically in the program. So I'm going to immediately, before we get too far into things, I'm just going to start defining what various numbers mean so that we're not hard coding values in. So I'm going to use the .equ, which I think is actually exactly the same as set. I'm not sure if there's a difference there or not, but I'm just going to go with .equ, which is basically the same thing as define in C. If you're familiar with C, it's like doing the same thing as define. So we're going to define, I'm going to call it exit code, and we're going to define that as 0. And then I'm going to have what I'm going to call exit call, and I'm going to define that as 1. And what I'm referring to as exit call is right here in the system call reference. In order to exit out of the system, we have to pass the value 1 into register 7 in order for it to exit. So it's like syscall name. So I'm thinking of this as like the syscall name. And then lastly, we have this this supervisor value. So I'll go ahead and define that as well. And we'll just call it SVC code, or call maybe. And that will also be 0. So the first thing I can do is just immediately start replacing these. This is going to be our exit code. This is going to be our exit call. And this is going to be our SVC call. And then we don't have to have this, but I'm going to go ahead and put the .end directive on the program just so that we know where the program ends and then it's very clear and obvious. All right, let's go ahead and save that and just go ahead and make sure that everything's still good. I don't like to make tons of changes all at once without checking. Oops. And so we still have that. And let's just to make sure that our exit code is not just defaulting to 0. Let's make sure it's actually working, and I can do that just by putting in a temporary value like 17. So I'm going to change the exit code to 17. Let's clear all that out. Let's remake, and let's run our program and check our exit code. Okay, so it's giving us 17. So I just wanted to make sure that it was actually giving us back the value that we were putting in, and it wasn't just defaulting to 0 and not necessarily putting 0 there because we told it to put 0 there. But it is indeed following the value that we're specifying. All right, I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to need to do is we need to prompt the user. So let's set up some kind of prompt. I'm also going to say that since this is the part of the code where the program is exiting, I'm going to define this label, and I'm just going to call it exit. That way, as our code grows in length, we can clearly see that this is the part where the exit is starting to happen, so it doesn't get mixed in with other, so it doesn't, the lines can tend to get blurred. So, but by having this exit label there, eventually we're going to need it anyway, because I'm sure eventually we're going to need to branch directly to the exit for some reason. But even from the very start, it's good to just put that label in there. Okay, so let's prompt the user. And thinking of labels, I know eventually we're going to have a loop. So there's probably going to be some things that we need to do here. So I'm going to say as a comment, initialization section, probably spelled that right, doesn't matter, it's just a comment. So there's going to be some things that we're going to need to do as soon as we come in, but we won't have to do those every time we go through the loop. So we're going to define that section up there, and I'm just going to say, we'll leave that, TBD, but that'll be our initialization section. Then we'll enter into the loop. And one of the things that we're going to need to do in this loop is we're going to need to write a prompt out to the screen. So let's see what we have to do for that. If we look over at our system call reference, we can see that the write is on this line here. Again, it's quite small, so I've kind of zoomed in a bit and made it a bit more obvious what needs to happen. So let's go ahead and set up to write out to the screen. So in order to do that, we need to move into register 0. We need to move into register 0 a value called standard out. And that's not defined, that's not predefined, so we will have to define that. So we'll get to that in a moment. And if you're familiar with the idea of like standard in, standard out, and standard error, standard in is 0, standard out is 1, and standard error is 2. So we'll have to define that in here in a moment. So the next thing we need to do, and I'm just going to do these registers in order, like R0, R1, R2, and then R7 last. It doesn't matter, but it just keeps things a bit more organized, I guess. So we need to move into register R1, and actually not move rather, but we need to load because it's essentially a pointer. So we need to load into register R1 a message of some kind, and I'm just going to call that message prompt, because we're going to prompt the user to enter something, type something in. And then after register 1, we need register 2, and we need to move into register 2 the immediate value of the size of the prompt, which I don't know what that size is yet. So we'll come back and fill that in here in a moment. And then finally, we need to move into register 7 the immediate value for in order to write out. And I'm just going to say write rather than hard code the value in there. So let's define these up here in our equivalency section. So let's say equivalent standard out is 1. And let's say equivalent write is 4. Okay, and now we need to create a prompt. Now I like to put the data section up at the top, but I see a lot of people, they put their data section down here. So I'll start by doing it this, but eventually I'm going to move it to the top. And the reason I want to do that is because in higher level languages, I typically define variables at the start of the program or at the start of the function. So I want to continue to do that here. But I do notice a lot of books and references and people seem to put the data section at the bottom. So we'll start by doing that, but then I'm going to move it. I think one of the reasons maybe they do that is because if you put the data section at the bottom, then you don't have to specify that the start section is code. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. So anyway, we have our data section, and we're going to need something called prompt. And that's going to be a ASCII value, although we'll change that actually eventually, but for now we'll just leave it at ASCII. And then our prompt for now will just say type a number, and I'll leave it like that. I don't want to have, I should probably spell number right. I don't want to have a new line feed after we give them the prompt. I want it to give them the prompt and then stop at the end. So I don't want to give them the prompt and hit enter and then have them type underneath of the prompt, because I think that looks weird. So I'm purposely not putting in the new line. We'll do that later. We'll talk about that later. Okay, so that's our prompt. Now we have to manually count out how many characters there are. I don't want to do that all the time, so we're going to build a sort of a general purpose subroutine or function that will do all the counting for us. But for now, we'll go ahead and just count this manually. So starting on the letter T, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 characters, including the space. So the size of our prompt is 15. And then once we load up all the registers, we have to make a supervisor call to 0. Did I type that right? Yeah. To 0 in order to actually see that prompt on the screen. All right, let me think about that. Take a sip of water. I'm pretty sure that's correct. So let's go ahead and write our changes. Let's quit, clear this out. Let's remake, and no complaints there. So let's run this, and we should see our prompt, and then immediately we'll get the bash prompt back, the shell prompt. Yeah, so we got type a number, and then we didn't put in a carriage return, so it just immediately gave us back our command line prompt. All right, so let's clear that out. And so I'm like I said, I like to have my variables at the top. So I'm going to take this section, I'm going to move it up to here, and the only thing that we have to make sure we do is we also have to put in the text directive here, because if we don't, well, actually I'll show you what will happen if we don't, because it essentially it doesn't know that the data section ended. So the assembler and everything just thinks that this is all data. So let's write this out. Let's quit. Let's remake, and you can see, it just gives us an error, and I don't know exactly what that error means. But the bottom line is that it thinks all this stuff is data, so it thinks this is just garbage data. But if I put in the text directive right there, then when we remake and run our program, everything's fine. Okay, so where are we at on time? Let's actually go ahead and stop there for this video, because I don't want each individual video to be too long. And when we come back, we'll continue on with this program. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.